We've always believed the reefing hobby is built on more than just products. It's built on people, on knowledge, on passion, and on the communities that keep this hobby moving forward. That's why we're proud to announce that Exodus is officially sponsoring the Reefers Network, a community created for reef keepers by reef keepers, bringing hobbyists together, sharing experiences, supporting stores, celebrating the industry, and helping more people succeed in the reef aquarium hobby. We're proud to support the Reefers Network, and we're so excited for what's coming next.
Oh dear, there were some familiar tanks at the end there, wasn't there, Terrell? Good evening, good afternoon, hello, wherever you are in the world joining us today. Thank you ever so much for tuning in for another episode of the Reefers Network. I have, of course, my amazing panel, as always, Mr. Dong Zhao from Acro, Mr. Terrell Newell from Putang Reefs, and we are privileged to be joined by Luis, Mr. AcroKiller himself. Thanks for tuning in, man. Welcome to the show. Hope you're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. Another shout out, as always, as Jamie did last week, to Steve and Jez from Exodus to agreeing to sponsor the channel. It literally means that we can bring you guys watching from home, especially in the UK, some amazing prizes for some of the quizzes that we have got up our sleeves in the next coming months. So please stay tuned. Okay, we're going to talk about temperature. You know, it is getting a little bit hot, especially in the UK. I know you guys, obviously, over there, you're used to this sort of heat.
No.
well, we're certainly not over here. I mean, there was a comment earlier about people melting, and yeah, I mean, we have really seen it in the UK this last couple of weeks. We've had a few of the heat waves. It's finally starting to even itself out, but I'm sure there's more to come. So I thought temperature would be a good topic of conversation. Dong, you've got a presentation that you're going to talk to us about tonight, which should I say, which will be informative and educational as always. One thing I thought that was a little bit humorous, you've obviously noticed that I use a little bit of the AI, quite a lot of the AI when it comes to the thumbnails. So the thumbnail that I came up with this morning, when it was early morning, Terrell, I messaged you at like 4:45, 5, whatever it was this morning. So I wanted an image of us trying to obviously cool the tank, representing the, tanks, you've got to use chillers and fans and everything else. And it came up with an image, and I was like, and it was fine. It was all right, but we didn't look that sort of hot, as in uncomfortable. So anybody watching that uses anything like ChatGPT, you can know how precise that you have to be when you give it instructions. I didn't know that you had to be that precise. So when I asked it to say, "Can you make these guys look hot?" Ladies and gentlemen, hold your wine, hold your beer, hold your soda, whatever you have in your hand, because this is what it came up with. There you go. Wasn't intentional. So you'll be pleased to know that image, along with plenty more, will be going onto a Reefers Network calendar for 2027 at some point in due course. But anyway,
that's pretty good.
Yes, GPT. There you go. I mean, Dong, that was, you'd be flexing out.
Yeah, Lindsay made a point that in every one of these AI pictures, I'm always happy and smiling doing it. Like the one we're doing pests, I'm like, everybody else is looking all like, concerned, and I'm just like blasting bugs, and I'm with a big old smile on my face. So I don't know.
One more time for those of you at home. There you go.
Oh my goodness.
There you go.
Oh, man.
my God.
Pumping. Okay. Anyway, happy Friday. We are here on the Reef Network. Thanks very much for tuning in to the 50 odd of you around the world that have tuned in to get involved in this topic of conversation regarding temperature. Right, let's jump in. Let's say hello to who we've got. Usual suspects, as always. Mr. John Wright is with us. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Johnny Boy. It'll be good over in Skeg, Vegas. Panit's Reef, hello. Thanks for tuning in. Nice to see you. Lisa is here, of course. Nice to see you, my dear. So is Baby Dave. Tom's probably melted. Yeah, I'm still here. Plenty of me, as you know. Evening Techers, hope you're good. Who else we got? Tony is with us. Hope you're good. Thanks for tuning in. Tommy and Sharon, as always, are here as well. Thank you very much. Very sunny in Scotland. There you go. Who else we got in here? Jonathan Mills, thanks for tuning in. Nice to see you, Nad's Glass, again. Hello, Anthony. Hope you're good. Good week. Dave Reef, hello. Anthony, UK 120. Grant is here as well. Nice to see you. Mickey Boy's in the house. So is Marky Mark. Ocean Sea Products. Hope we're good. Who else we got in here? Mr. Harry West has tuned in, joining us. Thank you very much, Mr. Harry West. Hope you're good. Not spoke to you in a while. Banana Rama. Hope you're good. Happy Friday. Malman7616. Thanks for tuning in. Who else we got in here? Alex Ferrara. Thank you for joining. Raboose Quinn 9630. Thanks for tuning in and supporting. Gaza. Here you go, Dong. Biggest fan as always. Mrs. Poohtang Reeves is in the house as well. To be expected, she's meant to be watching a film. She hasn't told us what film she's watching. 10 points for those that can guess. Keep it clean though, please. Of course. 66. What's up, AcroKiller? Nice for tuning in. Thank you very much. Wounded Waters. Hello. Roland Munchie. Nice to see you. Wakefield Reef. Timothy. Hope you're good. Haley Bart. Nice to see you. Not seen you in a while. Hope you're good, my dear. Mo. Hope you're good, my man. James, hope you're good. Happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in. William Schneider, thanks for tuning in and supporting. Have I missed anybody? Jamie's here. Couldn't stay away. Been catching fish. Arcs, a little bit of AI there. 207 Nano Reefing, thanks for tuning in. And we are thereabouts. As always, I will make an effort to give you a shout out as we go along throughout tonight's show. But, so temperature, gentlemen, do you think it's something that people stress about or probably should stress about more than they do? Do you think it? Where does it rank on your sort of, I don't know, level of? Oh, Terrell's going. Oh, Dong's got. Louis up there. Is it up there? Is it right on the? Is it up there on the watch pile?
I used to, not now.
Yeah,
the middle. Yes, and I'll explain later why. After you guys.
I know his style. What you tell me what you run yours at, and I'll run mine a little bit cooler.
All right, so I used to stress about temperature all the time, and I was like a big stickler of 77, 77.5, 77. Then I started talking to my buddy Alan CRT, and he lets his tank swing, and lets it go down, 75, 74. 78, whatever. So I started doing the same thing. I stopped, worrying about temperature and let it do its thing. And my tank swings from, 76 all the way up to 79. And no issues at all. Yep. So I don't, before I used to, it was like put it in the controller, 77 and 77.5 shut off, and it was all about it. And now I don't worry about it too much.
Right.
So for me is that I only worry about the upper limit.
Mm-hmm.
So the swing, actually, I just let it swing. The day and night, there's a swing. Actually, it happened on the coral reef itself.
Keep it clean, keep it clean about swinging. Keep it clean about letting it swing. Come on, it's Friday. Come on. Okay. I'm just saying what people are thinking. They've just seen you flexing. They've just seen you. They've just seen you. Come on.
So there's several studies about the coral temperature. So there's a paper indicated very clearly. So if you allow the coral to swing day and night about 2 or 3 Fahrenheit, it actually boosts its immune system. That's what the nature do. So the coral actually get used to this swing. There was they call the high precision study on the Great Barrier Reef at where the coral is located. So they recorded a day and night swing is like about 2 Fahrenheit day and night swing at where the coral is. So one of the major reasons for the swing is during the nighttime, deep water rise up, carrying all the planktons and as well as the cooler temperature. That's what causing the coral actually has a temperature swing day and night. So I think that on the literature, they talk about the ocean temperature, global warming, climate change. They are looking at the average temperature. So they are not looking at a particular temperature at one point of the day or night. No, they look at the average ocean temperature. So the coral swing, temperature swing is natural. If you can do that, you should offer it to your coral. There's no reason to keep it like 0.5 degree precision. On social media, I keep my apex and keep my temperature 0.5 degree precision. No, that is not necessary. And it probably doesn't do that well for your coral either. Mm-hmm. And think about it, and it also does not do very well for your heater, the controller. You're clicking.
Yeah, it's constantly on and off, on and off. Yeah,
exactly.
I've experienced that.
Mm-hmm. So I think that, but the upper temperature, the upper limit, that's what I'm really concerned about. I actually do not even concern about the lower limit. It turns out coral will do perfectly well down to 68 Fahrenheit. That's how what's it in Celsius. But 68 degrees, 68. That is the lower limit. Probably around 20 degrees, something like that.
Yeah. You know, I'll share a story real quick. One of my local fish stores here, you know, it's called Clarksville Reef and Reptile, and one of the best mixed reef I ever seen. It's been his. And this guy, he used to let his tank swing. He had no heaters or chillers in his tank, and he would just control it with the he used to have his tank at his home before the store, and he used to control it with the house heater and the AC. And the tank will swing from, like, 74, 75 all the way up to 82, 81, and all throughout the night again. And he had spawning events in Euphilia. He had all kind. It was a beautiful, healthy mixed reef, and it's crazy. I wouldn't do it. I would let it swing 2 to 3 degrees, but not.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So for coral farm, I think that the temperature is naturally pretty stable because of the large amount of water.
Yes.
In the system. So that's why that in summertime I don't even plug in the heater at all. I pull all the heaters out, and the AC cool down the room at night. The temperature drops a little bit and rise up when all the light turns on. You rise up and just let it swing. Let it go.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that in your presentation in a little bit. But I put a poll on a second ago then, gentlemen. So thanks to the 7, 8, 10 of you that have actually voted. Looks like the majority of people are saying that they will hold their tank around 25 Celsius, 77 Fahrenheit, with a few commenting that they will go a little bit warmer, 26 to 79. So not to spoil your thunder a little bit, not to take your thunder away from you, Dong, for your presentation, but sort of, Louis, you were just saying about your story then. So how low can we go and how high can we go? Which is obviously going to be something that people watching at home are going to want to know the answer to that. How low is too low and how high is too high? Anybody want to take reign of that one? All right, let me put it another way. Terrell, at what point does your moustache start to shrink and panic when your temperature gets out of control? When do you start to get nervous, man?
I mean, me personally, like I said, I'm the same way. I let mine drift about 75, sometimes 74 to about 77. I've had it in the past go up to 79, and usually whenever I'll see issues in my tanks whenever it start peaking at like 80, 81, I'll start seeing like millipora will start kind of shredding a little bit. It's not everything, but some stuff I can tell is a little bit more sensitive to it. But yeah, that's kind of what that's kind of where we're keeping it at right now. And then the same thing, I don't let it get above 80. And then, 74, sometimes I've seen it down to 73 and I've had no issues. Now we're pushing down to 72. I might get a little bit concerned because at that point I can realize it's past the point where it's naturally settling at night with my air conditioning and everything of how I am. So if it's running away at that point, now I'm looking into something else like, all right, what's wrong? Did my heater fail? But yeah, between about 74 and to 77, 78 on a high side, but 75 to 77 roughly.
Okay. What do you guys think in terms of where you should place an actual heater versus the controller that's actually picking up the temperature of the tank? Because I think this is something that a lot of reefers kind of don't think about when it comes to placing these in a sump or in the tank. And sometimes the spacing can give you, fictional sort of figures maybe. Do you think differently, or what do you guys think?
Got to place that probe upstream of your heater. That way, it's the cold water is coming back into the tank or the new water, and then it goes through and heats it and then kicks it back up. So I think you're always, you could put it in the return chamber, but you got to be careful that if that return chamber ever dries, does that heater become exposed? So I would say maybe the chamber right before a return chamber. That way it's hitting it in that last chamber right before it goes into return and right back up into the tank.
Yeah, I use the Helio, and the Helio sometimes will give you a code, an error code, if you put the temperature probe in the same compartment as the heater. And so it tells you, hey, put it upstream, just like Terrell said. And here you said something, Terrell. The Helio has dry protection. It will shut it off, like if it runs dry.
Good.
So, but yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
So my set point is 76. That's a heater set point.
Yep.
So if you rise up to 79, then I would turn on the AC more. So my lower limit is around 72, but my reef tank never reached that low because the sheer amount of water volume in there. So, this is not sponsored, but Amazon again. I do bought those Amazon Bluetooth thermometer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all on my phone. So I put each tank, even in the same system, have each of the Bluetooth little thermometer monitor each system. So at the beginning, I was looking at all the data, and then they all look the same. Later on, nah. But it does give me some control, some data logging. You can pull up the data to see how the temperature swing for the past months, past year, and individual tank will have the one of these little $15 Bluetooth thermometer.
So it's a temperature probe, and basically
it's a temperature probe. Something hang on your wall, and then with a probe go right into the water.
Okay.
So basically, just a Bluetooth thermometer.
Okay. That's pretty interesting.
It's designed for aquarium use. So you can log on to the app and look at all the data, all the temperature fluctuation.
Oh, nice.
Because sometimes
it's available. It's available on Amazon, obviously.
Oh, there's so many of them. So the one I like is the Inkbird version. Because it's a known reliable brand name. So I bought the Inkbird one. When they're on sale, they're really, really cheap. I think that's pretty useful if you're really wondering what your coral went throughout the past months, past year, what kind of temperature they actually experienced. So, but as long as the temperature is low enough, less than 80 degrees, nah, let it go.
Yeah.
I think the easy answer is like, give it that little rough range of, whatever you want to call it, that 3 degree range, that 4 degree range. Don't stress too much about it. But I think where the temperature subject kind of comes into play a little bit more is, in your particular region, with what you're working with what you have in your house, what kind of ACs, heaters, that's all going to vary. Like mine is very different from y'all's. You know, we don't experience cold winters in Florida, for instance, like you guys are going to experience. So, you know, it's my mind is more on, you know, heat mitigation. And you know, backups on backups, because we got the super hot Florida summers. We never really open the windows except, you know, where it's nice in the wintertime, but you know, pH swings and all that. But you know, that lies with us is at worst case. And you know, it's good when you keep it in that little zone, but how do you keep it in that zone stable enough? Because if one of those things fails, what do you do?
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you guys stand on redundancy when it comes to temperature then and control? Do you run multiple heaters? Do you have them at separate, different levels of temperature? You know, and what's your take on having a combination of maybe, you know, your titanium heaters and your old school glass heaters with a thermostat on the top? Do you just for redundancy? Are you big believers in that? Anybody, or how do you run your systems?
I use a controller, you know, obviously. So I right now I use a Brazilian controller. It's called the Acro, and what I'll do is I have my heater, the helio control itself, but I have my controller kind of on a high limit. So if the helio fails, the controller takes over. Also, that helio comes with dual 500-watt heaters, but I only have one connected. The other one's still in the water. So therefore, if something happens to that, I just swap it out in the controller. Both ports are there. I just swap it out if one goes out. But that's how I maintain it, you know. And then on the low side, I just keep my house at 70 degrees, you know, the whole year long, you know, summer and winter. And so
That is so nice.
Yeah, so the tank kind of maintains, you know, pretty well. So that's what I do.
I would think like redundancy. I mean, we've gone through a few, like, you know, again, I've been talking about heat, but we just put in a second set of ACs. So, you know, we have central AC in our house. And so it's, you know, we've upgraded from a 2-ton to a 3-ton. And then we did another, and then we did a second 3-ton mini split in the house, which is our main backup. And now the garage has a 1-ton and then a 1.5-ton. And so the idea is if anything fails in the garage, I have another one to pick it up until I get the other one fixed. And if anything fails in the house, at least I have one to pick it up before the other one gets fixed. So like that's like our biggest weak point. And then the other one I would say is, you know, you don't really think about is splitting your circuits. You know, you're running these big heaters. And if you start running everything like your heaters and your lights and your controller, and then when you know, the issue of, you know, you hit that point where your heater's clicking on and off, that's going to eventually throw a breaker. So being able to, you know, have that heater on a separate, separate circuit, you know, outside of your main return line, you know, just was that.
I've had heaters not come on, and I've had heaters stay on. And the issue I've had, or that caused the most damage, was by not having anything controller-wise that would send me a message to say it's over a certain amount. Yep. So I think for me, going back to earlier days in reefing, that was a massive lesson to have something that sends you a push notification that, it's gone above a certain temperature. And I think most people will keep a spare heater. But I think for me, you know, you've got a little bit of redundancy by running, you know, I always run at least 2 on a big system, 2, 3 on a bigger system.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the way I do it is that in the sum, there's a main heater is in the sum. And then on each individual tank, they have their own heaters. But those heaters are set about 1 to 2 Fahrenheit lower than the main heater. So when the main heater fell, well, knock on the wood. Where's my wood? Then all the backup heater on the individual tank will light up.
Yeah.
Or another thing is that if my return pump fell, it did happen. The return pump plug or something like that, and then the backup heater in the individual tank, they will keep the tank warm. So for AC, I have central AC here, but I also have a portable AC. right here.
Mhm.
So that portable AC vented outside, goes through the window and throw all the hot air outside. So, for example, when the in summertime, when the guys, my HVAC guys are maintaining my main AC, I turn on the portable AC, and that AC is more than enough to cool 1,000 square feet. So, yeah.
I actually have a confession to make. I bought an AC portable unit for my garage about 5 years ago, and I burnt it out. I don't know how I burnt it out. And then I bought a bigger one, and I burnt that out. And I burnt that out within 24 hours. And the bigger one, the terms and conditions said you must keep the original packaging. Yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody the name of the company because somebody's going to probably send an email. And I said, so I actually had to send the AC back, but it just wasn't capable because I was just asking it to just do too much in the space. So they do work because I managed to find a way around it, but sometimes you can cause yourself a few problems. One thing I was going to ask you, there was a comment a second ago. Sorry, Lewis, there was a comment a second ago regarding halides. Where are we? Somebody's running halides at the minute regarding temperature. So how do you guys feel in terms of the relationship between the lighting that you run and the temperature of your tank? Is it up there? Is it something to really consider?
Pay attention to it, obviously. Okay. I mean, because depending on what you're running, my SPS tanks vary differently from my LPS tanks, just, simply because of how many lights are running over them and how intense I'm running them. Four fixtures over this tank right here at 20% does not match, 6 fixtures on that running, double or triple the amount. So, it's taken into consideration, or even like a big UV sterilizer in line will bump that temperature up a little bit depending on the size.
Yeah, that when I went from 3x4s to 4x4s, I think I went up 1 degree on my tank. The temperature went up. So but in that situation, you can always run fans. So halides, you have to run a fan.
Yeah, you have to run fans.
Yeah, if you don't run a fan with a halide, man, I don't know. That's because those things will heat up the water quickly. If you look at anybody's tank, like even when I don't know if you know Jackson's Reef, look at his videos, you see when he had the halides, you see a fan in the side of the tank. It's just everybody does. You buy a
halide, you buy a fan. It just is part of it. You have to buy a fan with it.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story real quick about an issue I had. So we had a tornado came through our neighborhood about 3 years ago, and it was in the middle of winter, and it basically destroyed our neighborhood. And luckily my house was not affected, but we were without power for over I think almost 2 weeks. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and this is what I did to keep the tank alive. I had a generator, obviously, but I can only plug in the heater for a while because I was also trying to power other things in the house at the same time. Yeah. So what I'll do is I will heat up the tank, to a certain temperature, and I noticed it would not keep up because it was so cold. The house was extremely cold. So I wrapped the whole tank with blankets completely. The entire tank with blankets, and it was able to keep up the whole time, and no lighting or anything. The tank, everything survived. So,
wow, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
wow.
I will turn on the light, for a little bit, maybe a couple of hours, and then turn it off. But the heat maintained with just keeping blankets on the tank. I wrapped the entire thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's tough.
Have either of you experienced anything detrimental then when it comes to temperature? Because I'm conscious we've got Dom's presentation that we're going to go into a minute. Anything have you physically seen, devastating or issues or stress signs, symbol of too high a temperature? It's obviously going to be too higher.
Knock on wood.
Not in my tank, but in my customer's tank, yeah, all the time.
Such as, can you share with us?
Oh, basically just, for example, the guy actually went on a vacation, and then he didn't expect there's such a heat wave suddenly hits. So 90-something degrees for 2 days. So, of course, that he didn't turn his AC on because when he left for vacation, it's still pretty cold. And come back, milky tank. Everybody died. Everybody died. There is that happened all the time. Yeah. So there's Yeah, there's so many. Every time there's a heat wave comes for people that live in an apartment, then there's a many coral and fish lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know about that because that they come after that they come over to buy more coral.
Here's one. Or sorry, here you go.
No. Like, and one thing about that, places that experience heat waves like that and hot weather, and if most people keep a deep freezer in their garage, just get a couple cheap water bottles and freeze them, and leave them in there. And
I thought you were going to say there was some dead bodies related
No.
to that comment then in the freezer, in the basement. Just saying, no stigma.
No. Keep. You can get the bigger cheap bottles and you just keep them in the freezer, all frozen up, and you could use that as cooling when the tank is getting a little too hot. You just throw one water bottle in the sump and cool it off.
Yep.
So,
Definitely.
I will say this. So this is on the subject, and I mean this affects us on both sides of the vendor and the the hobbyist. And I'll say how when you ship frags or you're shipping corals, I've always erred on the side of coral ships better. You can err on the side of it showing up cold because it'll generally recover better from cold. So I've had some people, people are very, they're kind of like, and they're getting coral for the first time, they get a little bit freaked out because when they get this thing and it's a little bit cooler, they think that it's going to die. And like I've had coral show up a little bit too cold. You misjudge it and it stays, maybe it gets caught up overnight, but you can generally tell, again, just a little bit cooler than, what you normally get, and they'll recover just as long as it's not too hot, not too hot or not in the 50 degrees, 50-degree water, then you might have some issues, but.
Yeah.
So I think that some of the retailer that did experiment on that basically put a temperature tracker in a package and deliberately exposed to the temperature outside in the cooler and to see that what coral can tolerate. So the general consensus that what I learned from those is that if your temperature in the cooler dropped to 65 Fahrenheit, the coral perfectly fine. The most common mistake that happen is that when they put a heat pack in a cooler, the heat pack is capable to heat the cooler over 90 degrees inside, just for the initial several hours.
Yep.
Regardless what kind of temperature the coral experience after that, the coral is dead.
Yeah.
So for customers, if you receive a package, the coral is sitting at 65 degree water, it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Actually, you much more prefer them to sit at a lower temperature, lower down their metabolism, so they poop less into the water. It actually ship much better that way.
And I've seen the difference in how some people ship. I've seen some people ship, they'll punch a hole in the top of the box. That way oxygen actually gets in. And I actually don't do that. I'll just, I'll take it, I'll slap it on the lid, and I might let it sit out for, 2 minutes, shake it around and then slap it on, because I know that it's going to heat up within a few hours, but the less oxygen that, it's really using to heat up, the better. And it's only going to use the oxygen in that, in that little box at that point. So by the time it reaches them, some people will tell me, hey, the ice, the heat pack's kind of, it's kind of cold. And I'm like, good, that's how it's supposed to be.
Good.
It's not supposed to be hot,
that it was supposed to be.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All you need is a little bit.
Might be a bit of a curveball question here, but what's your take on which one's more resistant to temperature swings, corals or fish?
Of course, fish.
Yeah. Corals, hell, like I got in bags that are extremely cold, and the corals got polyps out inside the bag, and a fish I don't think will handle that very well.
Now I will say this: you keep in mind that if it is hotter, if that water gets hot, that means that oxygen is starting
depleted.
to get,
So the flow needs to.
Temperature may not kill them, but the lack of oxygen might.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The same thing goes for coral too, man. I mean, when you're shipping SPS, like we use oxygen, and I mean that's one of those little secrets, but it makes all the difference in the world, because you're not really, because I went through a thing with that in the past where we were killing coral, sending it out, and not realizing that the pH is crashing in the bag overnight. So and so a little bit helps it out, and it kind of stabilizes everything too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you say psst, that doesn't mean you're urinating in the bag, does it?
No, that's for the dosing in the tanks.
It's not ammonia dosing, right? Okay, a urea dosing. Okay, fair enough. Just out of interest, I put a poll on a second ago regarding what's your go-to method of keeping control of your reef aquarium's temperature. It looks like everybody's going for mixed 50-50 fans and room air conditioning.
AC.
Not many people have gone with a tank chiller. One of the faux pas of a tank chiller, I've experienced this a few times in the past, is your tank chiller kind of needs to be outside or near to an external wall to get the most out of it. Otherwise, just recycle the air that you've just cooled, pretty much. So it ends up heating the room. Lewis was saying earlier about heating the room, and a tank chiller it can do both. Not necessarily intentional, but yeah. Nobody mentioned frozen RO water, but I always think that is a perfect emergency last minute measure.
Dude,
if nothing else is working, you've got that in the freezer. It might be covered in, the out-of-date fish fingers from 3 years ago or whatever you don't need,
That
or
actually
nuggets, whatever.
That actually saved, these tanks multiple times when we had AC failures in the past.
Right.
I have a bunch of, ice packs and everything. And at that point, I was immediately dumping ice packs into the sumps, and I would literally watch my temperature. It would drop a little bit and then slowly start creeping back up. And it's surprising how quickly it creeps. So, then I'd rotate those out, freeze them, throw more in. So it helps.
Yeah.
So there is another way, little bit easier. So assuming that the supermarket still have power, most of them does. So when you are out of power, they have whatever generator. You drive over there, buy a big bags of ice, and put those ice in a clean plastic bag and dunk the whole bag into your sump.
Yeah.
And then when that melted, go to the supermarket again and buy another pack.
Yeah, I mean, you can also use, a lot of people, I don't anymore, but some people buy frozen vegetables. They come in a bag, and and you can go to your freezer and get anything that is sealed, that is frozen, and you can just dump it in your sump, and it works. It actually works. Yeah. There's somebody
that open the bag.
Yes.
Though. Open the bag.
Oh, I mean, maybe if you got tangs, they'll be all right. They'll eat the broccoli or something.
And actually, here's a funny story. One time, I was shipping a package of frozen food to my daughter in New York City. Then I realized that I do not have ice pack. I grab a bag of frozen vegetable and toss it into the cooler and ship it. And my daughter, after she received it, said, "What is that bag of frozen vegetable doing there?" I said, "Oh, just use ice pack,
Yeah.
Use ice pack."
Yeah, it will work. It will work
for
that.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's having that. It's worth having that emergency bottle or bottles. Definitely in the freezer for that reason. Right, I'm going to stop that poll. So overall, there you go. 55% have gone for room air conditioning. Obviously, it depends on where you live in the world, I suppose, whether or not you need it all year round, and obviously budget, because it can be a little bit expensive to run. But the rest of you have gone for fans. Thanks for participating in that one. Right then, Dom, I think we're pretty much ready. Are you?
Actually, give me 1 minute. Let me grab a drink.
Oh, I thought you was going to put a disguise on then. Okay.
No, I'll be right back. Let me grab a drink.
Right, let's jump in.
What?
Go on, Lewis. What are you going to say?
No. I would say while he's gone, I don't know if y'all seen that new Greg shared this little article thingy that talked about some of the corals in Australia are actually getting they're adjusting to the high temperatures. They're not. Yeah, some of the areas are now bleaching and things like that. So that tells you how resilient these things are and how adaptive they are.
Interesting.
I do think there's an argument with temperature from my own personal experience of making certain corals a bit hardier by having those fluctuations. I really do. I think if it's managed to survive with you for however many years, and you've gone through the highs and lows of the peak seasons of climate wherever you live again, and certain things like that, and you've had maybe a bit of an outswing, or you forgot to top something up, or salinity has gone a little bit out. All these things, they're not ideal But I personally, from my own experience, do think that they do overall give you a hardier, not in all cases, but in sometimes a hardier, more resistant coral. That then when you then take a frag of that and give that to a fellow reefer, that person's going to have equally more success.
Yeah. Well,
disagree or agree with that statement?
No. I agree. The coral restoration in Florida is doing that. They're microfragging to and then exposing them to higher temperatures to get. Oh, never mind. There he is.
Yeah, I can hear all your discussion. Very good point. So I actually going to mention some of that in the slides.
Awesome.
Fiji water.
Yeah, there
Fiji,
you go.
anyway.
Oh, please tell me please tell me that's vodka, and we can get you to down it live and see what happens. No, okay. Right, come on then. Over to you then, Don.
Okay.
Here you go. You put this together. Thank you very much. Educational time for everybody. Sitting down, please. Here you go.
All right. Temperature. Yeah, we talk about a lot about temperature. So let's move on and go to the next slide, please. Okay, temperature, one of the most important parameters. What I mean is that not getting it too hot. So just look at what Florida right now. When you reach 90 degrees, there is no way you can save the coral, seriously. When you reach to that higher temperature, it's done. No matter how much effort you put in, scientifically, aquaculture, no. When water reach that kind of temperature, no turning back, it's done. So our goal is to not to get that kind of high temperature that often for the coral reef to survive. So next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit of the climate change fiasco, whatever thing going on. Yeah, the ocean is definitely getting warmer. So scientific study shows, yeah, it is definitely getting warmer. But how much warmer does the ocean actually get for the past 100 years? Is less than that you think. Is less than 1 degree Celsius. But keep that in mind. So for our reef keeper, many of us who keep SPS have seen that our reef tank exists at so-called high temperature in the ocean. But our coral is fine. That's including myself. Sometimes I think, are those scientists too much emphasis about this warming? But actually, there's a reason behind it. The coral, just keep that in mind, the coral in our tank actually quite different from the coral in the ocean. That is the key point. So we will get into that argument, but keep that idea in your head. While the ocean can warm up 1 degree to 2 degrees and create tremendous disaster, but our tank has more tolerance of higher temperature. Just keep that idea in our mind. So next slide, please. Next slide. Then the Great Barrier Reef definitely follow the same trend. From the past 100-something year, we can see that the temperature rising on Great Barrier Reef approximately about 1 to 2 degrees Celsius over there. Of course, that they're already doing a lot of damage there. So right now that if you look at the news, everywhere is doom and gloom. Say, oh my God, the coral reef's dying, and then we're gonna lose our reef in the next 25 years. But actually, let's go to the next slide. That is officially from Australia. For AIMS, the Australian Institute of Marine Science. Despite the temperature is rising, the coral coverage on the Great Barrier Reef is actually increasing.
Wow.
So sometimes you have to look at that, what the reporter trying to tell you, try to shove it in your somewhere, the information versus what the scientific information telling you. Yeah, that's very important. So when you read the news, it's much better to look at what the scientific institute talking about that. But of course, in Florida, it's an entirely different scenario. The 90-degree Florida definitely get the coral toasted, and that's true. So the good thing is that on the Great Barrier Reef, the situation is not that bad. Just like Lewis mentioned when I was getting my Fiji water. So yeah, the Great Barrier Reef is not really that doom and gloom. So also another interesting thing coming from the scientist in Australia studying the Great Barrier Reef, it seems like the coral has much more tolerance of high temperature than we expected. Yeah. So that is some good news. The coral actually also adjusting themselves, quickly evolving themselves to adjust to the higher temperature. Because coral is a pretty simple organism. They evolve pretty quickly. According to the University of Miami, there's a term called assisted evolution. Basically, it's an evolution that is accelerated under the pressure. Okay, so we have to face the global temperature warming. Yeah, that's a real thing. We have to concern about it. But on the other hand, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all hopes lost. But of course, when the temperature continue to go up, and we don't know. So doing our part, of course, try to save the planet a little bit is always a good thing. Okay, that's the my political stand on this kind of thing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's not all bad. It's not as bad as what they portrayed it to be, but it's not looking good. Right. So that is the thing. So take it in the middle ground. All right. Next, please. So here is an important slide. Coral is hotter than the surrounding water. That is well studied. Wow. Especially at lower flow situation with high radiation, high light, lower flow. The study actually was done by multiple people, multiple scientists in the coral reef. When the flow is relatively low with the high sunlight, and the coral can be 1 or 2 Celsius hotter than your surrounding water. That means that the low flow situation actually can apply to many of the reef tank. When compared to the ocean, this is a puddle. This is a stagnant puddle of water. There's no flow compared to the ocean, okay?
Yeah. So what you're saying is we're burning our stuff with the lack of flow, essentially.
Essentially, that's what it is. So when our flow is low and our radiation is not that low at all compared to the ocean, despite you can get 2,000 parts at the ocean surface, but the coral in the ocean is not at the surface. They're down there. So our tank with the LED light these days, we can definitely giving the coral more than they can take for lighting. So by looking at all the literature, so to find out why the coral is hotter, besides the biological activity, of course, it generates heat. More importantly, those scientific research shows mostly apply to SPS because the skeleton. SPS skeleton is formed that way, is like a mirror. Basically allow the coral to accept the symbiosis algae to take the light from the radiation from above, and then the coral skeleton reflected light back. So for photography, it's called the backside illumination sensor. So think about it, the photosynthesis algae get the light twice. But this kind of mirror structure on the SPS coral, basically just like a magnifying glass. So try to imagine you take a magnifying glass right now, go outside and shine it on a bird, or no, an ant, on a slug, and they burn. So because of the SPS skeleton structure, that under high radiation, it causes the coral to be hotter than the water. That means that if your thermometer of your tank is reading 75, your coral can potentially already at 76 and 77. So if your thermometer showing you your temperature probe saying, okay, right now it's 82 degrees in the water, your coral is start burning to death.
Yeah.
That is something, keep that in mind. So that is why lower the temperature is a lot more beneficial. Of course, above 72 degrees, then it's much more comfortable for the coral. And for you as a reef keeper to say, okay, so the coral is not overheating. So over the year, I actually get into a habit. I look at the thermometer. 76 degrees. Then automatically I add 2 degrees to that temperature.
Yep.
So, oh my God, my coral is 77. So that is why. So your coral is hotter than the water. That also means that flow is very important. That's what the scientific literature is called the micro-environmental thermal stress. Even though your water is cold, 76 degrees, your coral actually is much hotter. Of course, if you tell ChatGPT to get a coral hotter, the coral will be like this.
Whoa. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Hot coral.
Don't do that. Don't say the hot words. Don't say the hot words.
Oh, wow.
Okay, next slide, please. Now, here's the graph showing that higher flow rate versus the temperature of the coral surface, the surface warming. So indicating the higher flow velocity, which means that the amount of water actually going through your water surface, the coral surface, actually take away the heat. That means that flow is such an important thing for SPS coral. Of course, for zoensis, they do not have the skeleton to reflect the heat, the light. They're only based on their biological activity. You probably don't need to worry that much. If you have a tank full of zoensis, a leather coral, even many LPS with gigantic amount of fresh covering it, like a trachea or something like that, that probably is not that much a problem. The problem is on SPS.
Would you think
That's
that
probably
maybe,
why? Go ahead, Tara.
do you think that maybe you would have issues with some of your LPS that are heavier on this, like this little bit stonier, with a little bit less flesh? Do you think like acans, for instance, the micromucil?
That could be, but most of the study are done on SPS because they're the unique structure on the skeleton. And also the relatively thin layer of tissues, the meat on top of the skeleton.
Just out of interest, does this analogy relate to the same as in humans? So if they're bigger people, they're more resilient to skinnier people? Just asking for a friend.
That's why you need AC. AC is your friend. So next.
It does make me wonder how chalices would act in that same way too, because I mean the way they lay out and the way they catch.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because chalice does has a reflective skeleton underneath it with a thin layer of tissue on top. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. And also many LPS actually collected at a cooler temperature. Some of them actually come from the northern Australia and have a temperature around 72 degrees to 68 to 72 degrees. The subtropical region. Yeah, that could be another problem. So that means now we look at the flow in a reef tank for SPS. So since that we cannot get enough linear flow without killing the coral, blast the tissue off, so we want wave. You can see the back of my tank. I actually dial it down so that it creates less noise. Otherwise, this is like a washing machine. You can see the wave. So the standing wave gives you up and down motion. Washing the coral carry away the heat, complementing the linear flow. Linear flow critical. Up and down motion helps a lot. basically you just want as much water molecule going through the surface of a coral to carry the heat away, to cool it down.
I want to put you on big screen. I'm going to put you on big screen again. Go on, Lewis. We can still hear you. I'm just going to show you that picture.
Don't you know what you know what I still run in my system?
Uh-huh.
A Tunzi wave box.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I run a Tunzi wave box with MP40s, and that wave box overpowers the flow of the MP40. You still see the wave with all the flow from the MP40s in my tank.
Yep, the wave box is a good thing. The reason I used to run wave box, but my coral grows so much, my tank is so crowded, I have to take the wave box away to give them a tiny little bit of room.
It does take
wave
room.
box, yeah.
That is an interesting thought, though, to put flow up there, because we always kind of like we use flow as the idea of like, oh, get detritus off of it, get food to the coral. You don't really think of flow as being removing heat from the coral.
Yes. It's so critical.
And that, and there's something that for me, because like I said, I'm running LPS systems, SPS systems, and I'm trying to, kind of tie different lighting in with them. And, on my LPS tanks, I've kind of went with the much lower flow, kind of, maybe 1 or 2 power heads. And I've gone back to giving quite a bit of flow. And, because the idea is always kind of come back to every time I do too low of flow, I get too much crap that builds up onto them. The temperature is a thought now that I didn't really consider before too.
Because that on the coral skin, the surface, there's a thin layer of stagnant water. It's called the boundary layer. The higher the flow going through the water, the coral surface, the thinner this stagnant water, the boundary layer is. When this layer is thinner, the heat exchange is much more efficient. Think about the flow has a lot to do with the heat.
If you want to see what a wave will do to your tank, a wave box or any type of wave maker that can make an actual wave, like as soon as you start a wave in the system, you see all this detritus just come up. You can have all kinds of wave makers all over your tank. As soon as you start a Tunzi wave box, you see all this stuff will just come off, and you could tell how the flow transfers in the system. I have a multi cap that overlaps a Goniopora, and then I have an Acro that's in the front of it, and with all that, you can still see the Goniopora moving like that.
Yeah, the waving. Yep.
So
okay, next, please.
Yeah.
Okay. What temperature can coral usually tolerate? Information coming from the Great Barrier Reef Foundation, from the Australians. So for normally around 23 to 26 degrees Celsius. Translation is 73 degrees to 79 degrees, and that is the zone. The temperature zone, you want to keep it there. So you will see that it all the way down to 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfectly fine. The coral doing great. So don't worry too much about the lower side of the temperature. Worry more about the upper side of temperature. When the coral actually get really stressed out, it's around 29 degrees Celsius. And
so where do we stand then with the types of species that people are keeping, the types of corals they've got at home? Because some people are going to say, well, these corals come from shallower water, they can withstand higher temperatures, more light. These corals are from deeper waters, they want lower temperature, lower light. How does that argument take part of what you're saying there?
That is why keeping a mixed reef is harder.
Okay.
Because that the coral in that tank coming from all sorts of temperature zone. But if all these coral are coming from aquaculture, that's a different story because that they all get used to the similar temperature. Let me give you one temperature set point. 76. Where is 76 coming from? It's actually coming from one of the largest coral farm, used to be, in the US. That's their set point, 76 degrees, which translate to about 25 Celsius. Is that right? Yeah. That will give you some headroom on top and give you some room to the bottom.
Bottom.
Yeah, so you can fluctuate a little bit, and then you won't get too cold, you won't get too hot. It's the Goldilocks zone. 76. Yeah, Goldilocks.
Okay.
Go.
Question here. Sorry. So should I drop from 25.5 to 24.5 from Malman 7616?
No, I don't think that will make that much a difference at all. Because that is 25.5 versus 24.5. The coral probably won't make much a difference, but it does give you 1 degree Celsius of headroom.
Yeah.
The buffer. So if you have a central AC, if your room temperature is pretty constant, like Lewis, which keep your temperature at 70 degrees, my wife gonna kill me if I do that. It's too cold. In that case, that it probably doesn't make too much difference.
Right.
But if you do not have a central AC and you live in an apartment and your tank is relatively small, yes, I will drop it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea is if what's the worst case scenario, you're buying yourself some time, and that that 1 degree can translate into 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Does that get
especially in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll say
Exactly.
time and time again, man. I'm blown away by how quickly, just shutting, if we're doing, AC repair in the house, literally within 15 minutes, I'll see a 2 to 3 degree, jump if I'm not careful.
What do you keep your house? What do you keep your house at?
So my house, like the main AC will read like 74, but as I put like little temperature readings around the house, I notice it'll sit the air will sit around like 73 to 75, depending on where the AC is kind of coming from. And so the tanks usually stabilize around like maybe 76.5 at a high.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know, man. I can't be in the house, any hotter than 70 degrees, man. It just doesn't work well with me.
I'm surprised they didn't put a woolly hat on the egg tonight before it came on.
70 degrees, that's my preferred temperature, but not my wife. Yeah, she wants hotter temperature. So
anyway, not going there. Moving on. Next slide.
Next one. Next one.
Next wife. He's getting divorced. He's
okay. All right. So what exactly is causing the heat stress? Is a chain reaction. So basically, what we're trying to do here is to figure out what exactly happened when the coral is overheating, because it's very important for this the things we're going to talk about later on in a slide. So nutrient imbalance. That's the first thing happened. The heat stress basically affecting the symbiosis algae first. Actually, that's the most important thing that the heat actually affecting. It's not your coral that getting too hot and need to cool down. It's your symbiosis algae inside the coral. That has a first reaction. So just like me, it's, oh my God, 71 degrees, I'm so hot. I'm going to get something to drink. Okay. So now the heat stress, what happens is that the algae will basically stop and alter the kind of nutrient they share with the coral. Well, if you said, okay, so I'm so hot, I don't want to cook tonight, and you're going to starve a little bit, that's actually okay. But no, the stress algae will produce excessive reactive oxygenated species, basically oxygen radical that can damage coral cells under the heat stress. Basically, now the algae become toxic inside the coral. That's why the coral expel the algae out to cause the bleaching.
So
that's the rationale there.
Is it more like a fighting, not a fighting mechanism, but a last resort mechanism? To just...
Actually, is that think about this way. If your roommate with you are pretty peaceful, okay, and your temperature get too hot, your roommate can keep complaining. That's fine. Just let him complain. And now he whip out a knife Say, hey, if you don't turn on your AC, I'm going to damage you. Now, what you want to do? Kick him out.
Yeah.
That is what happened to the coral, to the same bios as algae. Because under high temperature, the algae actually become toxic to the coral. That's why the coral kicked the algae out. But try to imagine your roommate is the one who fill your refrigerator. Is the one who go to the buy thing, and then now your roommate is out. You're starving.
Have you ever
What's next?
experienced? Sorry, have you ever experienced a coral in Acro that expel their tail algae, but it still has polyps and it's still functioning? I had that.
Absolutely.
So
that's what we're going to talk about next.
oh, okay, my bad.
Okay. So okay. They call the colorful bleaching. Actually, when the coral just expel the algae, the coral is not immediately go to starving. It's still fine. And now the algae is gone. The algae mostly green and brown. And now the coral become really super colorful because now all the furs and protein has no brown color masking its color. Now your coral looks so colorful, so beautiful. Of course, that the polyp is out because it's hungry. You will see beautiful SPS with polyp flying around, shining color, beautiful, perfect. We call it zeolite.
Zeolite. Yeah, I was going to say you were an S system. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that.
Zeolite tank. But then, yes, basic. But the coral itself is not really happy, even though its polyp is out, its color is vibrant. That's come to another thing is that polyp extension is not always indicating good health. Polyp extension on acro can also indicating is hungry, lack of nutrition.
Yeah.
Also, it can be lack of oxygen, air exchange. That's when your flow is low, the air exchange, they need more air exchange to extend the polyp to maximize its surface. Trying to breathe.
So is it acceptable behavior for me to walk around my house with my polyp out then to tell my wife I'm hungry? Is that acceptable behavior?
I think so. It depends on the mood of your wife, right? So either you get expelled like the algae or you get fat. And then you were causing the bleaching event in your household.
Yes. Anyway, and that definitely does affect temperature. That does affect temperature in my household. Anyway, sorry. As we were.
That's a colorful bleaching. So basically, coral bleaching is a colorful struggle for survival. That paper sum it up really nicely. Is that it's a colorful struggle for survival. That's what the color.
Years ago, I used to want a tank to look like that. I'm being honest. That was the craze to look like the pastel.
That was the craze.
Yeah.
My old tanks were all zeolite tanks, and I'll tell you a quick story about colorful bleaching that happened to me. Years ago, my son accidentally dumped cupramine into my sump. And
oh my God!
Yes, so I was sitting at work, and I used to keep Apex Fusion on the side because you know how we are. We get fancy with all this controller stuff. So I noticed my ORP tanked completely, and I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" So I called my wife, and I'm like, "Hey, anything going on with the tank?" She's like, "No, everything is okay." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "Well, Liam accidentally dumped this blue liquid in the sump, but and I'm like, holy crap, I didn't really knew what it was because what happened, I had a quarantine system in the next room, and I guess he got seeing me mess with it or whatever, he grabbed the bottle and dumped it. Well, I get to the house, and this is in a matter of less than maybe 2 hours. I get to the house, and the entire tank looked like that picture completely. It expelled all the Susanella, and all the polyps were, the tank looked crazy, but it was completely just like that picture. And it took it about maybe 3 months, and it bounced back completely from that.
For matter of fact, that some of the zeolite tank, So one of the component has copper in it.
Yeah, Zeospur.
Yeah. So colorful bleaching.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one. So color versus temperature. Here's a very interesting thing.
Just for the record, sorry, any lawsuits pending, I'll send you put Dong's email in the comments section. It's nothing to do with the Reef network at all.
Yeah, I counter sue.
No.
Just kidding. So that coral color versus temperature. This is a very interesting study. So that basically the study shows that the temperature tolerant coral, basically they're very colorful. The colorful coral are more temperature tolerant because that it has the higher whatever the thing is, that they basically express the fluorescent protein, and those fluorescent protein act as an antioxidant. What the antioxidant do? Remember the algae get stressed out, they release the oxygen radical, become toxic. The antioxidant quench that. That means that this colorful coral actually at a higher temperature, even your algae, your roommate acting up, they actually has a little bit more remedy to control the temperature. So that means, and also that the colorful coral, they're more sunscreen to shield the light. That means that they heat up less than the less colorful coral. So that means that colorful coral potentially more heat tolerance. And think about this way, and we only keep colorful coral. This is a hobby of color. We already selected the colorful one in our tank. Remember I mentioned earlier, so many of our SPS keeper, we observe that when the temperature actually gets really high, that when the natural coral cannot tolerate, our colorful specimen in our tank actually pretty fine. Because we already do the first selection. We select the colorful one. The colorful one is potentially more heat tolerant.
And what's the where does nutrients come into this then?
Huh?
Where does nutrients come into this? The relationship with color and then temperature. Is there anything?
We're going to talk about that.
Sorry.
So that means that when you're buying coral, the colorful one, the aquaculture one, are much more robust because we already do the selection. So our coral.
I'm asking you another question there then. So how relevant is it then when people are people are looking at corals? We shop with our eyes, as we all say. You shop with your eyes, when it comes to, especially to coral. Obviously, people buy online, etc., etc. But for most people that go into a shop and look at a coral and buy that coral, whether they're wearing orange glasses or whatever, they buy it, as you're saying, majority of the time based on color. How much is the setup of that tank in terms of the lighting that it's got, the nutrients, the flow? How relevant is that to them when they take that home to try and replicate that? Is temperature just as important when they're taking that out of a tank in an LFS to then when they take it home?
If I understand correctly, your question is that will this colorful coral in the store will be more resilient at your home aquarium? Is that what your question is?
Yes and no. I'm sort of saying that when people take that home, should they be equally aware of? So people look at, people say, what's your alkalinity at? What's your nutrient levels at? What lights you running? Should they be also looking at the temperature?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you should definitely look at what this coral are kept at the pet store, what temperature it is.
Ultimately, it's the habitat that it's in. It's the overall habitat.
Exactly, because temperature is such an important thing for the whole habitat.
Yeah.
And but with that said, one thing everybody need to be aware is that aquaculture coral with the stabilized color, stabilized genomic, and they get used to the artificial water, feeding, lighting. But wild coral, the chop shops, they can exhibit ultra bright color, basically in a stage of colorful bleaching. Those coral doesn't count. No matter how pretty they are, the wild coral, the chop shop, you shouldn't consider that to be any more resilient in a home aquarium. All we're talking about are aquaculture coral that has been already in captive. Get used to a captive environment. And the beautiful, colorful aquaculture coral is entirely different thing than the beautiful, colorful, bleaching, wild chop shop coral. That is very important thing. You can go to the store, you can see a beautiful coral just get imported, and they exhibit brilliant color.
Just going back to my question a second ago about the temperature and being aware of the habitat it's come from. So we've had lots of guests on here over the years we've been doing it now. And when it comes to acclimatizing corals, the majority of the experts will say, throw it in. Yeah. I'm now, you know where I'm going here. You're now saying replicate that environment. Surely most people, from a logical perspective, will think that they should, acclimatize from a temperature point of view as well. With you saying that point about replicating the environment.
No,
okay, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just sort of asking.
Yeah. What you're saying is that it's acclimation of the coral when you bring it home.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is the long-term environmental similarity between where the coral is grown versus in your tank. So temperature acclimation of coral, yes and no when you just get it home. But what you should look at is your long-term temperature at your home tank versus the coral farm's long-term temperature.
Yeah.
But not exactly is the store's the temperature, because a pet shop is only temporarily housing the coral.
Yes.
There.
Yeah, exactly.
To sell it, right?
Yeah.
But you really want to know what kind of environment this coral are grown at. That's another important thing. If I want to go buy coral from Taro, okay, then I want to know what this coral are grown, what kind of parameter Taro has. If I go to a pet shop, I will ask, where this coral come from? The pet shop owner says, oh, from Taro. I will email or call Taro and say, hey, what kind of environment this coral are grown at? So if the pet shop owner told me, oh, they're just thrown in from Australia 2 days ago, heck, you have nothing to go with. Seriously. In that case, that whatever your tank is. But when you're buying aquaculture coral, you definitely want to know what temperature, what nutrient environment this coral are grown at, and what kind of lighting he used.
You're not going to find that out.
But for online shopping, for example, if I go online, I buy this coral from Worldwide Coral, from Top Shelf Aquatic, you should ask what kind of condition this coral actually being aquaculture from. If you buy from Tidal Garden, you can call up Sam or email him what kind of coral this environment, what this coral is growing, what kind of environment this coral is grown from. That is why buying direct actually much better.
It puts out the middleman, doesn't it? In that sense, so
the middleman probably doesn't even care. That's the problem.
But I got a question, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like Tom was saying when he was talking about some of the experts, say, hey, don't acclimate. Could they be saying that because when the coral gets exposed to air, do they go into this self-acclimating mode, almost like an instinct thing? Just like let's say a spathulata or where the tide drops, they're able to self-acclimate and maintain. They'll slime up and maintain a certain temperature, so therefore they don't die. I wonder if that's maybe how some of these experts say, hey, you don't need to acclimate a coral when you first get it in. You take it out of the bag, it slimes up a little bit and dump it in the tank, and it's able to self-acclimate. I don't know.
I'll give you a thought.
It's true. That is true.
I've gotten corals in that, let's say they show up at the end of the day and they're warm, and then I'll do like a potassium chloride bath. But if you ever notice, when you make that potassium chloride, you get a heavy concentration, the water gets really cold. So I've gone from where the coral showed up a little bit warm straight to a really cold bath of potassium chloride, and then into like a normal temperature tank, and they've done fine. So,
yes, because coral, the people are saying that they're self-acclimating. Yeah, that's true, because they have the mucus, and also that a lot of things to do is the salinity, the water, the salinity inside the coral and outside the coral. There's a skin. So basically, even you expose it to higher temperature, lower salinity, whatever they're saying, the change is not immediate. So that's why they can do the self-acclimation over there. It's more important. Yeah, the internal temperature will still slowly acclimate it to your tank. So the more important, when you receive a new coral, the most important thing is to get it in the clean water.
Yeah.
Forget about the temperature, forget about the nutrient. Clean water, that's the most important thing. So that's yes, coral are self-acclimating. You do not need to drip them. Actually, dripping them is worse. So, just like if you're already sitting in a cesspool, so you want to hose yourself down immediately, or you want to wash 10% at a time.
Well, it's even the thought of I've had corals when we've shipped them. They've popped in the bags when UPS was rough, and just as long as the bag stays a little bit wet, all the rest of the water drained out. I tell them, hey, just take it right out, plop it right in your tank,
yes,
and they survive. So even so it's going from zero water and just a little bit of moisture to their tank, and what acclimation is there at that point? It doesn't even have anything to acclimate from, almost.
Exactly. Remember that back then there is a method to ship SPS dry.
I've seen that. I've actually you talked about it in one of the episodes too, I think. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it has a very high survival rate for SPS because of the mucus coating them, and also without the cesspool of water, that the bacteria will die in there, the mucus will degrade in there to create ammonia in that little puddle of water. So yes, they claim 95% success rate by shipping the coral aquapora, but just wrap it, just put a little bit of water to make the bag moist. And seal the bag inside with mostly air. Yeah,
it's not the same, but it reminds me of when I've cut a fragment of an SPS coral, put it on the brace bar of the tank, forgot about it nearly all day, gone to it, and then put it in the tank, and it survived.
Yes. Yeah.
So Don,
yeah,
when it comes to this temperature, you're saying the zooxanthellae will expel, and at what point does the bacteria colony inside that coral also plays a role in health to be able to fight that temperature and everything from preventing that coral for, meaning, let's say if the bacteria population in that coral is really healthy, will that help the fighting against the high temperatures, swings or whatever, like you were saying earlier?
That actually, I haven't found any evidence saying that. The coral definitely have a very unique bacterial culture on the skin. Some of the coral actually farming the different type of bacteria by selectively excreting certain compound to alter its bacterial composition on the skin. So how does that relate to the heat stress? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Because the heat stress, think about it, is more about the algae. It's internal. So basically, it's the algae turn bad under high temperature, the coral have to eject it. Then the coral starts to death. So regardless, assuming that, I can assume that the bacterial colony probably doesn't play a lot of role there, but there are also some reports saying that some bacteria can help coral to tolerate the temperature higher, but I really don't see much of a real scientific evidence to explain why or even observation about that. I know that certain bacterial company, well, certain company was selling you this bacterial, that bacterial, say, okay, if you dose this bacterial, your coral will be more heat
Probiotics.
tolerance.
Yeah, and yeah,
I don't
guess.
I don't think so. I don't see any solid evidence or scientific study to back that up.
Okay.
Besides marketing thing.
We love the M
Okay,
word.
next
slide.
Yep. So we already talked about this. The symbiosis algae basically is playing the very important role in the heat tolerance. So here's an interesting thing. So, when we look into the scientific research, algae, since is the major player in the heat stress, and there are about 40 different kinds of symbiosis algae there. Some are more heat tolerant, some are less heat tolerant. Yes, that is a major scientific trend to swapping the algae inside the coral. Swap the least tolerant algae, heat tolerant algae to the more heat tolerant algae. Yeah, that is one of the research. So basically trying to swap the algae to make the coral more heat tolerant. If the algae is more heat tolerant, the coral become more heat tolerant. But there's a catch. Coral can swap this algae in and also can swap this algae out. When we talk to like Carrie O'Neill and about this topic about algae, yeah, the coral you can biologically engineer to let them have the more heat tolerant algae in the lab. When you transplant this coral back to the reef, they swap it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, yes,
Wow.
yes. But
But-
on the other hand, in our hobby standpoint, we actually I remember somebody talk about aquaculture. So if you think about what is the most valuable about an aquaculture system of a coral farm, it's not a coral, it's a system. Because that system can potentially containing the more heat tolerant algae and more suitable for captive environment algae in the water. So when a new coral comes in, they bleach out, they swap out the algae to get more heat tolerance, more tolerate to the more suitable for artificial environment algae into the coral to make the coral more resilient. That has been observed over and over again. So for a coral farm, the most important thing is your system. It's not your coral, it's your system. So that's why for the hobbyist, the most valuable thing of your reef tank is the age of your reef tank.
Interesting.
If you keep restarting your reef tank, you're basically losing a lot of beneficial symbiosis algae that's available in the system.
So you want to be a 5-star hotel, is what you're saying, not a 1-star.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. But 5-star hotel does not appear overnight. The 5-star hotel, the reputation is accumulated throughout the year.
Yes.
So now,
Yes.
would you in theory, let's say for people that are like starting tanks, just getting into this, and I've always told people like go find some good seasoned live rock, so from somebody that has a nice old system. The longer the more robust you build your bacteria base, and essentially is going to make overall your system healthier and your corals healthier.
Yes, exactly. Not only bacterial, also the algae.
Yeah. So
that's in the water column.
This is why I asked that question earlier, because I heard Claude talk before from Fauna Marine, and he said when they receive corals in their farm, they try to put those new corals in among other corals immediately, and so therefore they can build that healthy bacteria population within the coral. So that's why I'm saying maybe a healthy bacteria population within that coral also helps it be more resilient to fighting these issues. Another thing Don, What do you think? Earlier, I heard Tom talking about nutrients. What do you think nutrition plays into this, especially with the tissue, right? Thicker tissue, being more resilient to this.
Like a sunscreen.
Yeah.
Yep.
The yes, nutrient does play a role in there, but we're gonna talk about a little bit about that, about when you're adding nutrient when you're doing heat stress. It's a double-edged sword.
The other thing we'll say, Louis, about putting other corals around other corals, surely there's a risk there about from a microbiome perspective that you could be bringing something in that other coral doesn't want as a neighbor.
Actually, the funny thing is that the coral is relatively, if you go through dips, so if you get wild coral, you definitely go through dips, especially you go through iodine dip. It's hard to imagine anybody importing coral does not do an iodine dip. Iodine is really effective by cleansing the bacteria on the coral.
And
so
you
you
link below
basically
from where you can buy it off Amazon, 50 milliliter bottle, $9. There you go, on the bottom.
So basically, you do your iodine dip, it cleans your coral, and now the surface is available for the new bacteria or the new types of bacteria to colonize. So when you put that already treated coral among your aquaculture coral, basically that the bacteria they will acquire more healthy microbiome as well as algae. Yeah, so both bacteria and the algae plays an important role.
With the algae, how do you see these products in the market nowadays? Like, for example, I think it's called Phycopure that has Succinella algae in it. Do you see a benefit, of us dosing that?
No, I don't. No? First of all, to isolate the algae, there's 40-something type of it. Which type? They're in a bottle. Let me know. Second thing is, how do you keep them alive in that bottle? That's question number 2. So with all this black box, I just think that's a piece of snake oil. Unless they tell me exactly what's in there, how they keep them alive, which class of algae they're selling you.
Yeah, I believe there's a lady, I forgot her name. She's selling different type of Succinella algae they collected, but I have no idea how they're keeping it alive, though.
And also let the coral swap out algae is not instantaneous process. So unless you want to bleach your coral in a QT tank and then dose your algae there, hopefully that's the right kind. Hopefully they actually, to repopulate it. And also when the coral take in the algae, it takes a while to, provided that algae actually can repopulate inside the coral. See, that's another hurdle. It's not, the coral is not a sponge. It's not like, okay, I can just suck up the algae and let them live there. No, they don't.
Okay.
It's a very complex, a very complicated process to act, and also it's a long process to have an algae or algae, different types, to establish in a coral. So selling you symbiosis algae and dumping in your tank, I think that's a fantasy. That is just so bizarre fantasy.
I'm assuming there's so many more things that can affect that as well.
Yes. Yeah. There's so many hurdles.
Yeah.
Yeah. To actually let that algae to establish your coral, provided you actually had viable algae, the right type, in that bottle.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So for matter of fact, if this company want me to test it, the product, I say hell no. That's just so far away from the scientific truth of that's so far, so too far. It's like fantasy.
That clearly goes in your reefing BS box.
I think that is reefing marketing. Let's just say.
Okay.
So you don't think at this point they can? You don't think they can grow it and keep it alive? Like let's say, for example, how they grow bacteria, how they grow purple non-sulfur, how they grow phytoplankton, you don't think they can probably are able to keep that, different species of silks and tail algae alive and maybe
In a laboratory, yes, but it's not affordable if you really. It's not marketable in terms of price. If they tell you that that bottle costs $2,000, yes, I believe that. Yeah. Yes. And they arrive from the laboratory. Yeah, that's a different story. So another thing is that for this kind of product, it's really difficult to prove it works or not. And actually, this is another thing about marketing is that for something sold to you, it's very difficult to prove the thing works or not. It seems working, or it seems not working.
Me, Don, and Louis all bought the same hair shampoo, and it just didn't work. So that's another market. And Terrell bought the right one. Clearly, he bought the right one.
Oh,
but what if the shampoo makes my head a little shinier than yours? So therefore I can say it works.
Oh, okay.
So okay, next. So this is a paper that using the experimentally evolved the coral for the photosynthesis algae for the reef restoration. Of course, when we talk about is that yes, good idea, but in practice, just like Carrie O'Neill said, the algae swap back. Right. So it basically it may not really be the but you demonstrated in a laboratory, yes, it can be done. It can be done.
Okay.
Yeah. But in reality, is it really the good solution? Probably not.
So, I mean, is that the idea that these corals are going to naturally evolve over time as the ocean just does its thing, and they'll adjust? We'll lose some, but then they're going to adjust, and then they will eventually repopulate.
Yes, that actually happened in the history. If you look at the coral reef extinction, the massive extinction and then repopulate, it going over and over again in the history. It's approximately about several thousand years. Every several thousand years, they're going through a coral reef extinction, and then the coral come back, probably a different species.
Well, the zooxanthellae too. The zooxanthellae algae has evolved. It always evolves depending on all these issues that we're having. Temperature and everything. Yeah. So
because the algae is a very simple organism, so the simpler the organism, so under the environmental stress, evolve really quickly. So that's why that actually we are really not looking at the only coral extinction in the history of Earth. We're just experiencing multiple ones. This is just one of them.
Yeah, most recent.
Yeah, the most recent. And you can see the Earth heat up, cool down, ice age, and going through all the cycle. Yeah, there's of course that human activity accelerated this heating up cycle. So that's how we look at it. Okay, next. Thanks. That is what we're talking about. We come to this is aquaculture are more resilient. It has been proven over and over again with all these factors we talk about. Yeah, the microbiome, algae, symbiosis algae. And with all this combined, all these things combined together, aquaculture coral are more resilient in terms of heat tolerance, artificial environment, lighting, all that kind of thing. So the end result is that if you really want to keep a successful SPS reef, aquaculture coral is the way to go.
Which is again do you think why most people have always said buy from a fellow reefer?
Yes, because buy from fellow reefer, you're actually buying aquaculture coral. Provided
that's what I mean.
Reefer is not just shipping.
Yeah, that's I'm not a chop shop. I'm saying you're buying
exactly
an F1 and F2 or whatever of that coral. Yeah.
And there's another benefit from buying from fellow reefers. First of all, you're helping him to continue to propagating coral. You're supporting because this coral, this hobby is one of the hobby actually can supplement some of the cost by selling fracs. So, for example, that my wife into orchids. I think the only thing she do is to give the orchid away. So, when you go to your fellow reefer's house, first of all, you're supporting him. Second thing, you got the chance to look at the mother colony. That's very important.
Definitely.
Yep.
You say, okay, you see on this online Facebook marketplace that this guy's selling this blah, 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 blah frag. You go to his house, pick up the frag, and say, oh, where's the mother colony? Oh, that's a home wrecker. Oh, that's a Walt Disney. You see the mother colony. When you don't see the mother colony, you should really think about it. Yeah. When you not see,
that goes back to the thing, man. It's how important it is to be able to like see where you're buying your stuff from, because you can see the systems, you can see whatever little issues are going on, you can see how they're taking care of it, how it's set up. You can visibly see, an overall, and instead of getting hyper focused on one or two corals, you can see the overall way the system, the health of it. It is very, very important. I think as a farm, like I said, it's important to be able to show that kind of thing.
But it is a double-edged sword, though, because and I have a good group of people, good network around me that we all friends, and we talk a lot behind the scene. We spend a lot of time talking about coral. So and this is one of the subjects that we come up with a lot, Don, and it's aquaculture corals are great, but when they're coming from a place that they're healthy, because a lot of people seem to think some of these corals are healthy, but they don't know what they're looking at. So, for example, we get into this new fad of people selling these small frags. They're all deformed with no coral-like structure. Like the skin looks smooth. They have no definition on the coral eyes at all, and that's a big deal. And we're seeing this more and more and more. For example, I'll see a guy selling a frag. Hey, I got a frag of SC Orange Passion, and then when you ask him to show you the colony, it's a frag. He's cutting the frag that is not even healthy, right? And then selling you an unhealthy frag, and that's a big deal. And for example, those microfrags are the worst. Like the unhealthy microfrags. It's one of my biggest pet peeve. And so it's a double-edged sword, right? People like Putang have bigger grown out frags, healthy. That's what I look for. Coral-like structure, Don, is the most important thing to me. Yeah,
the skin. And actually, the way I look at those people who are selling micro frags and fragging a tiny frag called as mother colony, those are chop shops. Absolutely chop shops.
To be fair, Lindsay did tell me last year at Reef Palooza that the reason why she went with Terrell is because his frags was bigger than most other people. just helping a brother out there. Right, one question I wanted to ask. One question I want to ask you. One question I want to love to you, Linz. One question I wanted to ask you there. I know we're talking about temperature. That is the topic of tonight's stream. Sorry. Where do we go? You're talking a bit about fragging here, so it's just got my brain ticking. So where do we stand with frags being more resilient, as the saying goes, to mother colonies? Is that right? Is there truth in that when it comes to things like temperature that we're talking about tonight? Is there much truth in that, Don, or anybody else?
Oh, you mean if a small frag is more resilient in temperature than the mother colony?
Yeah.
Actually, there's an interesting way to say to explain that. Frags actually less affected by the flow than the mother colony, because it's just a stick there, so you got very even flow going through the skin, carry out the heat. But the mother colony, each branch will reduce the flow, and many times that the center branches doesn't get enough flow, the heat build up. Detritus can build up, and they start to deteriorate. And coral is all the tissue all connected. And there is a very bad habit for acropora, is that the polyp bail out. Even you have a handful of polyp not happy, assuming they're in the middle of the colony, then they send a signal to the whole colony to bail. So that is why sometimes you can see your whole colony just RTN overnight.
But
that is not because of
but-
all the
But are we talking about frags compared to a colony during shipping? Like if let's say T is gonna send me a frag instead of a colony on a bag, is that what you're talking about, Tom?
Oh no, I mean in a tank.
I've always had the in the UK. We always talk about, for some reason, people talk about, you know, you get a colony, you should kind of, once it's settled, take a frag of it, because the frag is going to be more hardier, chop it, you know. And that's just got me thinking, with you guys talking about fragging, does that, when we talk about temperature, you know, is a frag going to be more resilient, sorry, is the word I'm using, to certain fluctuations than a mother colony? So should you adopt that when you buy a colony, like you were saying, you know, people taking frags of frags, should you chop it so you've got that, almost that reserve, that guaranteed reserve, you know?
Yeah.
But you shouldn't chop it too small.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not chop it up for sale, but chop it up to make the flow more evenly go through the coral and create backups. And for example, if you got an 8-inch colony, you have to chop it, because
like
that 8-inch
colony,
the 8-inch colony is not going to be totally happy in your new tank, because the light different, flow is different, nutrients different, especially flow is different from where you grow up. If you get an 8-inch colony, chop them to 3-inch baby colony
to make it more resilient. To be fair, Terrell, bonsai was definitely the phrase that Lindsay used when she was describing. Right, come on. We're going to move on here.
Well, I think a scissor is more effective in that case.
I was going to say, I see a comment in there that says some vendors justify selling tiny frags because the cost will be way higher for a nice size frag, and they claim cutting it as tiny is the only way to make. Look, I got to say to that is they're justifying crap quality. If somebody's basically saying, I want to play the game, but I don't have enough to play the game, then you shouldn't be playing the game. You know,
I also think that from it's that age-old argument for me. If you wouldn't have bought it, why sell it? If you wouldn't have bought that when you were going to LFS as a frag, if you don't think it's worth it, then why would you expect somebody else to buy it? I think that's the rule for me.
Oh,
that's where the greed and the passion comes into it. You know, you need the money, you've got the business, you've got the bills to pay, but also you have a responsibility. You know, going back to what Louis saying about the health, about, you know, if something's not right about it, you know, if you do it long enough, you know when something's not right. If it's not right, you don't sell it. It's a maybe. It goes on the maybe pile. You don't sell it. You know? It goes on the, you know, let's have a look at it. You know, in a month's time.
And I'll say smaller frags like that too are not. I don't like smaller frags like that, because I find they're not nearly as resilient as like a nice substantial piece. You know, and like Luis made a point before, is like some vendors will sell tiny frags because what that does to you is it puts you years behind being able to eventually frag that thing too. And I never thought about that, but you know, now that I think about it, it's kind of a crappy thing to do. But I mean, I see where somebody could use that mindset. You know, keep other people down. That way you stay on top. But that's not how we need to do it.
I mean, think about it, man. Some of these lower growing acros, right? You know, you get a 1/4-inch little nub, man. That would be years. That would be, you know, 4 years into it. If you might get something this big, you know, out of it. So that's why I don't like it. I can't stand it, but everybody's got their own choice. You know, some people like to have smaller frags, but you know, you can have healthy smaller frags. But the point is, unhealthy ones is my biggest.
There's that line. There's the line of going too small, or that thing is just not. You know, when it's the very tippy 3 polyps of a tenuous, I look at that and I'm like, you know, come on now.
How is that safeguarding that species or that lineage? You know, how is that? It's not safeguarding, is it? You know, so you want people to grow. I kind of get the business, but there's millions of them. It's literally a Pokemon, isn't it? There's millions of them to collect. You don't have to have, you know, there's not only 10, there's millions of them. So anyway. Yeah. Anyway, we digress, gentlemen.
Okay.
Move on. Next slide.
Yeah, move on. Next one, please. So, well, since we all talk about coral, how about fish? Actually, the higher temperature can do more harm to the fish than coral, actually, because of the oxygen level drop. exponentially when the temperature rise.
Yeah.
So especially larger fish, larger tank, they definitely need more oxygen level. They need more oxygen for the activity because a larger body mass. So when the temperature up to 80 something, your fish actually suffering quite a bit.
Can I just? Sorry, I've just said move on, but then I'm start asking questions. Do apologise, Mr. Teacher. One thing that I will personally say that I have witnessed with my own eyes with my display tap downstairs is every time my tank increases this time of year, both my chromis and my clownfish spawn, lay eggs every time this sort of year. And it's always when the temperature fluctuates around 26 to 27, gets a little bit warmer than it probably normally would. It almost triggers something in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. It does. The temperature definitely triggers something in a fish.
Okay.
So if you go to the next slide.
Doesn't do it in me, in case anybody's asking. Just out of interest. Doesn't do it in me.
Okay. Elevated water temperature directly increase the marine fish aggression.
I like that picture.
Seriously, this is no joke. That's real. That's a published scientific study. Yes, because when the temperature rise, it also signal to the fish that it's time to spawn, right? Just like in your garage. And what they need, more food, energy, and also when temperature rise, they're going to spend more energy. So that way, for marine fish, that become more aggressive to protect their territory. Even on the reef, it's such a massive water present, the fish can already become more aggressive when temperature rise. Let alone in a little tank. He only have that 3 feet or 2 feet of space.
Right.
So in the fish's mindset, well, yeah, they always assuming there's a limited amount of food. That is the intrinsic instinct of a marine fish or any fish. That's why that some of the fish grow to the tank size because they do not want to outgrow their environment, so they end up starving to death, outconsume the resources. So tropical damselfish, that including the clownfish, actually this study show up to a 4-fold increase in aggression score, respond to the temperature spike.
Wow.
Yeah. So besides your coral suffer, your fish become more aggressive. Yeah.
So
okay.
Real quick on the elevation of temperature too. I never really, paid attention to this because I thought it was just a myth that comes from, the freshwater world. But I know people that used to keep like powder blues and things like that. They always keep their tank cooler because they say every time the temperature rise, they will get white spots, ick, or anything like. So what do you say about that? Is this?
Oh, okay. So because that there is some saying you'll find out is that the cold water fish species or cold water coral species they have less disease. That is commonly that's well studied on that part. It's just because of the water temperature directly affecting the parasites, the life cycle, the speeding up.
Speeding it up, so you can see.
Yeah,
you see
and also when
the
the temperature rise, the fish become more aggressive, more stressed. It directly will link to the slime coat become thinner. The reef can drill through it.
More susceptible to
more susceptible egg, and that's also from the scientific study shows that they do more susceptible to egg when the temperature rise up.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
So keep it cool. Keep it cool. Very important. Keep it cool.
Very much so.
Yeah. Next, please. So okay, here's a question. Does amino acid dosing help heat stress coral? The reason for people ask this question because they saw advertisements, they saw marketing materials, they saw them on the YouTube, internet, social media. Hell no, that is not true at all. First of all, the amino acid that coral needed to act as an antioxidant and sunscreen under the heat stress need to be synthesized internally. They get those amino acids from internal, from symbiosis algae. That's how they get it. You dump this amino acid into the water, that doesn't do much at all. Because the amount of amino acid coral can directly uptake from the surrounding water is abysmal.
But if you have it in the water
Tiny.
column, for them, don't you think maybe they won't use that energy to produce or to, you know what I mean? So to be able to use the ones from the water column instead of expelling that energy they need, especially if a coral is stressed, right? The more energy it tries to, use, you would think it would be more effective. So that's why I thought it was somebody from Florida. I forgot her name. Don't she does like for especially corals like that when they're unhealthy?
Amino acid baths?
Yeah, amino acid baths.
Okay.
So
now here's the thing. That's a very good question. Now here's the thing. The amino acid, the AMA, that do this function, they call the microsporin-like amino acid, are not present in many of the commercial amino acid products. That's one thing. Second thing is that when you're dipping a stress coral in amino acid baths, that's a huge concentration. Yeah. And if you just dose the amino acid into a reef tank in such a dilute concentration, very difficult for for coral to scavenge them out. And also those amino acids, when you dose in the water column, most likely get uptake by bacteria. The bacteria, so much bacteria in there, they scavenge them first before they even have a chance to reach the coral. But if you dip them into baths, that's a different story.
Got you.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, that's and also the type of amino acid they use, they tell you half the story. Many things is that it's not that simple. So first of, and also when dosing excess dissolved organic or inorganic amino acid can actually increase the bleaching chance. That is well studied too. So when the coral is bleaching under heat stress, you're dumping all this organic nutrient into your tank, it actually makes it worse.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I don't know whether you're going to talk about this in a second, but what's the relationship with temperature and DOC?
Yeah, the temperature rise up in the heat stress level, DOC actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you actually further throw the balance and nutrient intake out of the window. Yeah, that even make it worse. That also is published in this 2021 article as well. Don't ask ChatGPT about anything.
Big O hasn't seen it yet, has it? Here you go, Big O. Here you go, just for you. That was the original. That was the original one. Yeah, it's going to be on a calendar. Be on a calendar for you soon.
So next, please.
Next slide. There you go.
Next slide. Ammonia dosing. There's some people said ammonia dosing help heat stress coral. The answer is yes and no. In the ocean, yes. In the ocean, possibly when the coral be able to uptake ammonium from the water column, and that's perfectly fine. That definitely help them to get some energy, right? Because they're starving at that point. But our reef tank is not the ocean. What the ocean look like? The ocean is zero nitrate, zero phosphate. Most of the time, a group of fish fly by, pee on the coral, and now the coral exposed to ammonium. Okay, you take it in, done. Not much of nitrate, mostly ammonia. Okay, but there is a nitrate problem. In our reef tank, the most abundant bacteria is a denitrification bacteria that turn your ammonia into nitrate immediately. So when you're dosing ammonia into a reef tank during the heat stress event, those ammonia will turn into nitrate immediately. And nitrate is the problem during the heat stress. Yeah. So in the ocean, yes, ammonium dosing. Well, the coral benefit from ammonia in the heat stress. In a reef tank, hell no. So don't do it in a reef tank in the heat stress.
Yeah. So would you think in that case, since nitrate is the problem, and I've seen studies where it talks about that phosphorus actually helps the coral in this situation. So we'll
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well studied too. So one of the reason is that without phosphate or phosphate, they cannot even uptake ammonia. That somehow the transport mechanism is linked together. It's pretty unknown, but coral can take in nitrogen. Well, coral can take in phosphor without the nitrogen, but they cannot do it the other way around. When they take in nitrogen, they have to have phosphor present.
Yeah,
that's why phosphate. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The phosphate is important to help the coral to go through the heat stress. And the funny thing is that probably that's one of the many reasons that our coral in our tank are more heat tolerant than in the wild, because we always have a much higher phosphate level than in the ocean. In the ocean, basically most of the time the phosphate is zero until a bunch of whatever creature fly by and drop some random phosphate down. Now they get some phosphate.
Yeah.
So actually, hopefully, remember one time that one company in Massachusetts was pouring sodium hydroxide into the ocean, try to help the pH issue. Hopefully, people are not dumping phosphate in the ocean to help the heat issue. That will not work. Okay, next, please. Yeah. So under the heat stress, the best thing you can do, grab a cubes of ice, cool it down. Just turn on the AC, lower the temperature. That is the remedy when your coral under the heat stress.
Just for image purposes, though, that was the reason for the ice cream. Do not put ice cream in your reef tank. Just want to say that. unless it's flavor specific, and there's a relationship between the flavors and the coloring and the colors of the corals. I mean, is that a secret, Terrell, that we don't know about? Just asking.
Would it be a secret now if I said it? Please, don't go put ice cream in your tank, everybody.
Actually, ice cream is for yourself.
Yes. Somebody's gonna be listening and they take it way too literal, and they're gonna be like, "You told me to put ice cream in the tank."
Yeah. How many scoops? That's what you'll get asked. How many scoops?
The happy ending. What? Doesn't sound right.
Oh dear, I thought it was just me today. Dog's getting naughty.
Oh, dear. Yeah, the best way to lower the temperature, AC. Basically, AC is the best way to cool down your reef tank. Also, you reduce humidity to make the cooling more effective. That's why in Terrell's world in Florida, your AC works less efficient than in Boston, because we have a less humid air, so the AC actually works better.
Good question. I'm just going to throw you some good question here from Putty Sweet. Thank you very much for sharing that. What about chiller versus AC?
Next. Let's go to the next slide.
Next slide. Here we go. There you go, Putty.
Okay. Now, how you look at chiller? First of all, chiller actually is a very effective way to control the temperature in your reef tank. Definitely. But where you put your chiller is very important.
I said this earlier, if you remember.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story.
So many times.
The story happened about maybe like 20 years ago. I went to a guy's house. He lived in an apartment. Then he had one of the bedroom has a 220-gallon reef tank in the bedroom. Okay. And there's a window AC on that bedroom. There's a chiller under the stand. He told me back then, he said he spent about $400 something a month to chill this tank. That's 20 years ago. $400 is a lot of money back then. That's ridiculous. Then basically, why do you have the AC and the chiller? He said, the chiller put up so much heat. I use the window AC to chill the chiller. Then I said, well, why don't you just cut the chiller out? Then he said, yeah, that's a good idea. And then after he removed the chiller just to use the window AC, he dropped $200 a month for electricity.
Wow.
Cut the bill in half. That means that do not make the mistake to use AC to chill your chiller. If you have a chiller, the best way is to try to vent the chiller outside.
Yeah.
If you can put the chiller out in another room, that even better, or at least you have some kind of way to vent the hot air to somewhere else. If you allow the hot air into the room again, you're basically is not doing a lot of benefit. You're wasting a lot of electricity, and then you still need the AC to chill your chiller.
Yep.
So that, yep.
Oh, I have this issue too,
Go ahead.
man. Like years ago, when I had a metal halide tank, I had my sump in the garage, and so then I had the chiller in the garage also. So then the tank will get hot inside the house with the metal halide, but then the sump in the garage was trying to fight the heat in the garage from the outside heat. So it was a constant high electricity bill all the time. But that's the only way I could do it, and even I think even with the chiller being vented outside, the garage got so hot that I couldn't. Yeah, it was working against itself all the time. So
I think I'm going to go back to my roots here. There are still some UK viewers watching us. Conscious we're talking about AC and blah blah blah. For me, it comes down to the investment and to an element the return on that. Is it a justifiable expense? Because coming back to us in the UK for a minute, we're probably lucky if we get 2 to 3 months a year that are above a certain temperature. For some people to invest thousands of dollars, in your language, or pounds for us, on this equipment to only be used a couple of months, it's just simply not for the sake of the fish tank. It's just simply not viable. So I think some people will look to other more affordable viable routes like a chiller and fans and other things, because they don't get used that often. So because of that, it doesn't justify the expense or the outlay, if I'm making any sense.
Yep. And also the AC has another benefit, is that you chill the reefer. You're comfortable at the same time. Yeah.
Where are we with running costs to AC to chillers? I know that's going to be open a completely different conversation, but any idea?
Actually, AC probably much cheaper than chiller. Okay. Because AC always vent the heat outside. Yeah. Yep. So, but with chiller, but for some of the reef tank, if you already have the chiller, chiller has another problem, is that when you buy a chiller, you have to buy from a very reputable manufacturer. If you buy it from a website start with a T, end up with a U, whatever, and no brand name, a no name chiller, that is a big problem, because I have seen inexpensive chiller actually causing problem. It's about that titanium coil. You are running salt water over the coil. Even the titanium heater these days have so many fake titanium. You're really saying an inexpensive chiller will give you a true titanium coil? That is a thing. Yep. If you want a chiller, if you have to use a chiller, get a very good chiller, a name brand one, a reputable one.
Economical reefer, I like economical. Talks my language, saving money. Could a refrigeration engineer convert fridge components into an aquarium chiller? Would it be cheaper and efficient alternative to a purpose-built aquarium chiller?
Wonderful question, because I was thinking about that, because about that question as well, because that it won't work. People try. People use a mini fridge to do that. But
He's
mini
saying-
fridge,
Trav's saying yes, it would. Oh,
you will chill your tank, but then the efficiency is very bad.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And you can do a search on the Bean Animals website. You can see the project he posts there, how try to use a mini fridge as a chiller. So basically, the way a fridge was designed, it literally is not efficient. It's not like it does not cool down your tank. It's that the efficiency is very, very poor. It's much better just hook up your window AC.
So
No, I'm not looking at a comment. Sorry.
I'm thinking about this, but what if you run, drill the side of the refrigerator and then coil a rubber hose or something?
Yeah, through it and then
Yeah,
that's
back out.
That is how this modification was worked on the Bean Animal website. So what happened is that it's pretty complicated thing is that basically it's about the efficiency. Yes, you will cool down your coil, but the amount of energy it takes to cool down your coil and how effective the coil being cooled down is not comparable to a chiller. Yeah, it's far from a chiller.
Right.
And also that normally people stuck you want a cooler, not a fridge. What kind of cooler?
interesting
So-
conversation.
Yeah,
DIY refrigeration.
yeah, but there is
The question is, Trav, how many beers can you get in this cooler? That's what I want to know. That's the most important question.
that's a good question. Actually, if you look at the newer generation of chiller, that is more like the AC that has a body, the compressor outside,
Mhm.
run a hose inside, but hang on your wall. And I've seen those kind of chiller. They basically have the compressor outside your door, but running a tube going to a coil, go down to your sump. And those that is a much better way of chilling your tank. In terms of energy efficiency, it basically is just like window AC. Those things exist. You can buy them these days. It just like, think about it, the AC unit, but a separate unit. Normally you have the one that compressor outside, but goes through a hole in the wall, a tubing in the wall, and then with your air blowing the unit inside your door, on your wall, blowing cold air. But try to imagine that, but with a hose running to a titanium coil going down to your sump. Yes, that's those things. The outdoor chiller, that thing exists. You can buy them. For a matter of fact, they use that thing mostly for fresh water, cooling large aquarium.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I seen it in Reef Central a long time ago. There was a guy in Reef Central that had a koi pond, and what he did is he ran water from the koi pond, coil inside his sump on his reef tank, and that's how he maintained temperature with the tank.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
So I mean, not everybody has a koi pond, but if you do, you know,
Or if your neighbour has a koi pond, Lewis, and you're really friendly, then maybe they'll let you share it. Maybe.
Oh, actually depends on how good the neighbor they are, and how many beer you actually send it next door.
Yeah.
I do see that back in the Reef Central day, there was a interesting way people cool down the room, because water has such a large heat capacity.
Mhm.
So this guy actually get those 55-gallon drum, big drum. He got maybe 10 or 20 of them filled with water, but stuck it in the basement. So because of all the water capacity there, the basement heat up slower than I saw that, but I don't know how effective that thing is. But I can tell you that when you have a large water volume like this kind of thing, even the room heat 80 degrees, the tank will still stay at 76 because of the heat capacity of water. It's all about heat transfer. Yes, that is all about heat transfer.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so
Moving
many
on.
ways to do it. Okay, fan, a frequently overlooked method. Fan actually can be very effective.
Yep.
blowing across the water surface, evaporative cooling. Yeah, that actually, I see people actually can drop about 5 to 6 Fahrenheit just by simply blowing the fan on the water surface. Actually, you can blow it on the some water surface.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Fan, actually, is a very good thing. Yeah,
cheap and easy.
But AC, I still prefer AC because the fan blowing on the sun, I still hot.
Yeah.
But with AC chilling myself, yeah, that's the best thing to do.
It'll take the edge off though. I mean, let's say, like, so for me, I'll leave it at like 74 in the house, and if I watch it creep up, I can't, I don't want to turn it colder in the middle of the day because Lindsay doesn't like it. So fans help.
You guys just don't know. Honestly, it's so cheap for you to run AC out there compared to over in the UK. It's so expensive. Yeah. It's a luxury. In the UK, it's like a proper luxury to have AC in your house.
But in that case, that you should get AC before you get a chiller.
I've got AC in the garage, but it just costs a lot of money, and
But a chiller could cost you more.
Yeah, but you don't use it that often, is what I'm kind of saying. It's like the upfront cost of an AC is significantly more than just buying a chiller that you may or may not use every year. Because depending on the climate in the UK, we may not need it. This is what I'm just trying to. I'm not obviously.
But do you guys have window AC?
Do we have what? Sorry,
the AC that hang on the window,
like a window unit.
Window unit.
Yeah, we do. We have electricity as well. Believe it or not, we still have electricity in the UK. Just say it.
Because the window unit is so cheap. Here is like $150.
Yeah,
and you cool the whole room down.
I think listen, AC. I spoke to Leo, I spoke to Corey, I spoke to you guys and lots of other guests. They always talk about heating a farm, or when it comes to temperature, heat the room, not the tank. Makes complete sense. For me, I'm just always trying to play devil's advocate from somebody at home that's got a 300 a 3 foot tank or whatever you guys call it in gallons, US gallons. Is it necessary? Is it really that necessary? Because you're talking about, for some people, to gonna buy something that's probably cost more than their aquarium.
It's not necessary until it is necessary.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's a story that I heard that that make the chiller much better than AC. That's here it goes. It's like this. So that guy actually bought a chiller, running the chiller in his reef tank because his wife does not know about the chiller. And then when if he turn his AC on, his wife know about it. When he left the house, his wife flipped the AC off. He come back, the tank is dead. That's why that he bought a chiller. His wife doesn't know about it. The chiller, they won't cut it off.
Definitely. To be fair to Sam, I watched his video. He's got the Teco, because I've got the Teco chiller. I've got two of them, 2000s, and you just. But the other thing with the chiller, I will say again, it depends on where you live. You have to house them outside, and you have to almost build around them so that they're waterproof and they're all sort of self-contained, which can be a bit of a faff, really, for some people.
Yeah, and most of chiller are not really weatherproof. They're not designed to run outside. That's a big problem. So that's why
we had the heat wave this week, and I used mine in the garage. But because obviously, going back to the conversation about the exhaust and the hot air going into the room that it's trying to cool, incidentally, I put it outside. I had to put a plastic cover on it in case it rained. I went to work, and then it absolutely just pelted it down. I had to come back to put the chiller back inside just to make sure it didn't trip the electricity on the frag system. So they're not They might be. I'm contradicting what I'm saying here to an extent. I appreciate that people watching at home. They're cheaper, but they're not necessarily as practical as an AC, are they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So that's why I make those window unit, the compressor outside, those kind of unit very effective. Yeah, because the compressor, they build it weatherproof, and then you have the hose go through your wall and going down to your reef tank.
Yeah.
So that basically concluded the PowerPoint.
Well, you know, that's,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, Don, you know, what else have we got to say other than, you know, that deserves a applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions on that one? I mean, that was very thorough. Again, definitely, you know, appreciate that one, Don. Definitely. There's so
Thank you,
much.
thank you.
There's so many caveats to it, to running a reef tank.
Yep.
You just don't think about things like that. You really don't. What I will ask you then, for people watching at home, again, for you know, traditional hobbyists, and I know we talk about this because we're all addicts, and most people are, and they've got to collect things, and you know, tank. What do you think people should be doing in terms of preventing or preventative measures for temperature control? We talked earlier on, we talked about heaters, we talked about, you know, running the tank cooler, a little bit of different range. What do you think people should take away from this? I know there's some serious names in the comments, and thank you very much for joining us, some big names, but for the avid, you know, not taking anything away from them, but for the normal hobbyist at home that's going to watch this back, and we are on Spotify, as I've said, or listening in the car, what sort of tips do you think people should take away from this, guys? I'm going to open this to you three, not me. You guys know a lot more than me. What tips do you think people should bear in mind when it comes to tackling with temperature?
So first of all, temperature is so simple to. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Don, you were always going to go first.
Sorry about that. So temperature is such an easy measurement. A thermometer, wireless one, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, so easy, so cheap. There's no excuse not monitoring your temperature. So that means that temperature is such a easy to measure thing. It doesn't cost you any energy or time or whatever. It's not testing. You look at your phone, you look at your wall, get a gigantic temperature display if you want, hanging right next to your reef tank. So when you walk by, take a look at it.
Yep. Yeah. Can we go next?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Here I want to say, and I'm gonna use my military background for this, is that you can't. We here fighting Mother Nature no matter what, right? We're fighting, hey, a storm coming through, shutting off the power in the middle of the summertime, and so obviously there's a lot of things that we cannot control. So having a good brand heater, in my opinion, a secondary controller to control that heater, and on top of that, to me, the most important thing is having an emergency plan. See what I'm saying? So you can have a controller and you can have a heater, but if something happens and you don't have an emergency plan, then what's good? You're gonna lose all your stuff. So you know, having that backup generator, you know, having a power, no brake, right? Sometimes some of those big no brakes can control a heater, you know, and can run a heater for hours, you know, or you know, for the cooling purposes, you know, having water bottles. To me, that's the most important. Having a plan and a contingency plan. That's all.
Yes.
Yep. I was just gonna say, man, you know, for the new reefer getting in, or for anybody else, it's do a little bit of research to see what these are exotic animals that we're keeping. And you know, if you're going to get into this hobby, do a little bit of research of what it takes to keep these exotic animals. And you know, that's like if you were going to get a bird, you know, you're not going to, you know, an exotic bird, a big old parrot, are you going to stuff it in a small cage all its life? No, man. You know, you would want to try to do like an aviary eventually, something to give them a good life. And the same thing here, man. Don't get a tank without doing a little bit of research of what's needed for that tank. And if you can't give it those parameters, then try to do what you can to change it to make it, you know, that way it will work. But yeah, just otherwise it's temperature's pretty easy, you know, and then be mindful about what your individual setups need, because again, my needs are different from Luis's needs, different from Dong's, different from Tom's, because everybody is all different parts of the world, and we got
exactly.
You know, yeah.
And that's the whole point of this channel, is to get everybody together to share sort of best practice and share, you know, difference of opinions and ideas on topics like we are tonight on temperature. I think one thing I will say from my own experience is don't leave it too late. So if you see the temperature increasing, Don't leave it too late to deal with it.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to deal with it when it's down here before it gets up there. From a personal experience, just saying. Okay.
And a thought too is, what is your investment worth? You know, it's one
That's
thing.
big.
Yeah, it's one thing if you just got a small tank and you're just getting into it, but a lot of us that have been in this for years and years, and you know, you find yourself, you know, years into this hobby, and a lot of us still haven't taken the correct contingencies. You know, that's when you get, you know, people that have been in the hobby and then they lose their entire tanks to something so silly, and you're thinking like, you've been in long enough to know what that is. Why did you lose it like that? And if you were willing to take that risk, then hey man, that's the risk you took and you got bit.
Agree.
So,
the big thing for me from tonight is the conversation around flow. That makes so much sense about getting rid of the temperature. That really, I think that will resonate with a lot of people watching this back. Really does make sense. Definitely something to take away from it. Okay. Right, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. What else can I say?
Yep.
You know, we're
Same
here on the
here.
Reefers Network again. Another Friday tick. For those of you, 50, 60, 70 of you at one point have tuned in around the world to support the network, really do appreciate the channel and the support that you are giving it at the minute. We will be doing a calendar for 2027. You will have to write in and let us know which month of the year you think this picture should represent. It's completely down to you.
that's August right there, man.
September.
Please email us in your suggestions. But now, listen, gentlemen, my fellow panelists, as always, Mr. Dong's out, Mr. Terrell Newell, and guest, and definitely welcome back for a second and third, and whenever you fancy it, mate, Louis, AcroKiller. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Reefers Network. Thanks to those of you that have tuned in across the world, wherever you may be. Have an amazing weekend, whatever you're getting up to. Please hit the like and the subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and we'll see you all next Friday. Take care. Bye-bye for now.